Hi there. Welcome to Kingston Police Services Board Meeting number 2214, dated Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. We'll start with, is there a disclosure of a conflict of interest? No?
Nope.
Okay. Can I get a approval of the agenda? Jeff? Christian? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. The agenda is approved. Can I get the adoptions of the minutes of the meeting 2211 held on August 18th, 2022?
I move.
Okay, Jimmy, Jeff, all in favor? Very good. Thank you. And then communications. The following communications from the Ministry of the Solicitor General, CAPG, OASPB,
Can you take
the
one?
Human Rights Commission be received. First or seconder? Yep, Jeff,
Aye.
Christian, all in favor? Thank you, Jimmy.
Aye.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions with respect to any of the following communications?
Nope.
No? Okay. Very good. Then we'll go to delegations, of which there is none. Chief Angie McNeely is going to give us a update for the University District.
Yeah, so I have with me Staff Sergeant Carla Stacy, Sergeant Clem Misaliagam, and I have Inspector Brian Peet, and presentations will be given through them.
Okay, very good. Hi, and thanks for joining us. I already said to Clem, Carla, and Brian, welcome. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I think I'm up. So I just kind of wrote down a few things to make sure that I wouldn't miss anything here. So I'm just going to go through them, and if there's anything, just let me know. So we have been actively out in the last few weeks. We have a change in our strategy for the weeks leading up to homecoming, with a focus on an early preventative model, increasing our staffing resources. With the focus on the noise parties initially before they result in the nuisance parties and get out of hand. So we've found that the smaller tenant events, when we did show up, were quickly resolved, and even the ones that were larger, once police were around, the crowds did disperse with the additional officers. So that's been very successful. One concerning trend that we've noticed is a shift from Aberdeen University Avenue towards Johnson near Alfred Frontenac and Albert. Large number of students walking into Johnson Street in the dark. So we're very concerned about the visibility issues there. In addition, Breakwater Park has seen large numbers of young people, up to several hundred, crowding the pier, consuming alcohol and jumping into the water at dark. And again, with the poor lighting conditions, alcohol and excessive number of kids, this is again concerning for us. So we've been doing our best to try and get there on early onset to mitigate anything getting challenging there. We've been working with Queens and by law in the messages to students, with our focus being on the responsibilities to the safety and security of all residents in Kingston. In particular, the messaging towards risks of alcohol consumption, rooftop access, pedestrian traffic accidents, and property damage. In addition, we're articulating our concerns with overtaxing emergency services and the restricted access to those individuals that need services when they're in the large crowds. So we're expressing a model of being a good neighbor as well. We've released several social media messages through our own websites, information sheets to Queen's handouts in the Queen's packages for the new students, Queen's orientation leaders briefing we attended, and we will be participating in a door knock in-person messaging in the next few weeks leading up to homecoming. The timelines for our role in the last few weekends. The Friday, Saturday, September 2nd and 3rd was the move-in weekend for Queens. And the increase in calls was definitely noticed at that time. So in the area that encompasses many of the Queen's students, both in residence and outside, We had during the week from Tuesday to Sunday, 87 noise complaints. And then Friday to Sunday, 52 of those noise complaints occurred. And leading up again to the move-in week, we had several parties where there were between 200 and 400 kids in houses or in shared backyard spaces. And again, using the strategy of early interactions, then we were able to mitigate them getting too far out of hand. That being said, on Saturday, September the 3rd, we saw approximately 7,000 kids take over University Avenue between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Observations there included open liquor, fireworks, loud music and parties, and one individual who was observed trying to climb the pole. No injuries resulted in that weekend that we were aware of. Moving forward from there, September the 9th, we had a concert at Queen's that saw about 2,000 to 3,000 kids. However, when the concert finished, the students headed back to their residence and nothing resulted from that crowd. Large amounts of Queen's students were traveling on foot in different areas. And again, police and bylaw were proactively enforcing the bylaws, utilizing the new strategies of early intervention. On September 10th, the volume of students on foot was significantly higher. The gatherings taking place on Gord County Pier increased. Again, by law and police were proactively enforcing the bylaws and using these new strategies. The streets became quite busy between 1:30 in the morning and 3 a.m. And again, the majority of students were condensed in the University and Johnson Street area. So moving forward, our plans for homecoming weekend and possible increased activity in the weeks prior are continuing, and our focus on staffing required to manage the potential large crowds and subsequent collateral calls for service and public and officer safety. So those are our focuses in the next few weeks leading up.
Very good, thank you. I have a question. So, if they're gathering in areas that are dark and the police services feel that it's unsafe because of that darkness, is there an avenue to put a request into the city to get lighting for that area?
So Johnson Street does have street lighting, as you know, but it is actually quite dim. So it would definitely be something that we would recommend. But to be perfectly honest, given the number of students there that we've seen anywhere between like 2 and 3 and 10 to 100 when they leave a party, basically spill out into the street. And as you know, Johnson Street is quite a busy street, and the speed limit there is significant. So the potential is quite high. So again, in our proactive strategies, one of the things that we've been doing with, as long as we have the resources, is the driving down through that street consistently and repeatedly to try and encourage them to go back onto the sidewalks.
Anyway, any other questions from the board? Jeff?
You mentioned that you were enforcing the bylaws, and I assume you're talking about the City of Kingston noise bylaw?
Yeah, primarily we've been focusing on the noise bylaw. If we find that there's a gathering that's kind of growing and the noise fits within the bylaw parameters for time. And in doing that, we're able to mitigate before a party gets excessively out of hand, which often we've seen in the past with, when there's a significant number of people, they spill into the street, they're up on the rooftops. So we're trying to intervene a little bit quicker when it's just starting to brew, as opposed to when it's completely out of hand. And for the most part, what we've seen is most students are cooperative. There are some that are not, and they generally move off into a different area. And we've been just kind of going about trying to mitigate them throughout the night until the wee hours when they decide to make their way back to residence.
Thank you. And it sounds like it's being effective. Do you find that the bylaw might be reviewed, say, in the next term to help support Quiet City and your actions here?
We're always open to any bylaws that can help us with our tasks, for sure.
Clem, did you want? Sorry, Clem, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to touch on another part of the bylaw that we've been utilizing. We're working with city bylaw quite a bit, enforcing the nuisance party bylaws as well. I know the last few weeks has been several amps laid you using the nuisance party bylaw as well. Just wanted to add that in there on top of the noise.
Okay, thanks. Christian? Still can't hear you, Christian. Okay, Bridget?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologies for being late. I was having some technical issues. I just couldn't get in. I just want, thanks for your presentation. I wonder if you could just speak to the difference between a Queen's students only big party versus a homecoming where people of all ages come from different cities and towns and come into Kingston. Is there much of a difference in kind of behavior or consequences?
Not generally, no. It's basically when we have the large numbers that the problems come into play.
Right, right. And do we work with AMS and other Queen's groups to try to help with messaging as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we do actually meet with Queen's bylaw, and we work together and try and do what we can on the front end to mitigate as much as possible. And as I had mentioned with our door knock campaign, Queens will also be out. Our community volunteers will also be helping, as well as bylaw in doing the door knocks and sending the messages out to residents.
Great, thanks.
Brian, would you like to add to that?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to applaud Carla and Clem. Sorry, a little under the weather today. For their efforts thus far. They've been doing a fantastic job supervising the extra groups of officers that we've had to send down there Friday and Saturday nights. So good for you. The strategies that we're using do seem to be working in terms of we have seen less mass gatherings. They're still quite busy, obviously, and students will party. That's to be expected. Seems to be a little bit safer with the efforts of these supervisors and getting everybody sort of on the same page. I spoke to John Howes yesterday. So far, we were hovering a little above $47,000 in overtime money for about the last 3 weeks or so. Certainly, these strategies and implementing them come with a cost. We can certainly expect that cost to go up in the coming weeks. And as we plan for the full homecoming event, we're also alive to the possibility of a full coming. We faced one last year. There's generally talk of them on social media. So we are alive to that. And we're considering a lot of operational plans, including, as we did last year, we're thinking about the requirement for outside help if necessary. Which I think improves everyone's safety, from the students to the community overall and the officers. Mass gatherings are not easy to deal with. Certainly bringing in subject matter experts is generally a good idea. So we're definitely in talks about that as well. Canadian Party Life currently ranks Queens as the #1 homecoming destination in Canada. I think that adds a bit to the hype, and generally you can expect more numbers from out of town. And to Bridget's point, I don't think there's a huge difference when you mix the Queen students with other students and others who probably aren't students. I just think it's the numbers overall create issues for us. So, I mean, it's not new. We've dealt with this before. We're happy with some of the strategies we've done. We're certainly thankful for the community partners that we have, including with the city and Queens itself. We meet weekly to discuss implementation of strategies, and we've been doing so for quite some time. So preparation-wise, I think we're the best we can be. And, a lot of it is out of our hands, but we've learned valuable lessons in the past, and we're hoping for the best this year.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. Christian, you ready?
I hope you can hear me now, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is purely anecdotal, but from a student at another municipality in Ontario that has significant challenges with homecoming, I guess their municipality has been very proactive at fining houses and has made it very clear that there's a zero tolerance approach, and that everybody at homecoming can expect to have a fine if they have a house party or if they're in violation of the bylaw. So my question to you is, how many fines have we handed out thus far? And is aggressive fining going to be one of the deterrent strategies? Because clearly this is a house that in the past has had parties, and in this case, they are now very much rethinking doing that, because under the threat that everybody's going to be getting a fine, there's not going to be any warnings.
I'll just let Clem answer to that, because I believe he has more of this information in regards to the amps that are laid. But we definitely have some numbers in regards to some of the enforcement.
Sure. So I can just touch on some of the numbers quickly, particularly open liquor, some of the public intoxication and amps. And just keep in mind, one of the strategies that we've really changed up this year, we're doing a lot of follow-ups when it comes to the actual nuisance parties. A lot of times we're not in position to identify the people that actually live in the addresses where the nuisance parties are taking place. So like I said, mentioned before, we have a very positive working relationship with our bylaw partners, and a lot of times they'll actually follow it up either the next day, and they'll go and lay the amps as well the following day. So not necessarily always happens the night of or during the actual nuisance party. So in the course of the last few weeks, starting up on 30th of August, so on the 31st of August, we laid 7 open liquor. On the 2nd of September, there was 20. 3rd of September, 15. 4th of September, 2. The 9th of September, 11. And on the 10th, 20. There was a variety of obstruct and other amps laid, the majority being laid by bylaw. And in terms of noise complaints received in and around what we would call zone 1 and zone 4, which is our Queens zones, it would be very similar to what we saw last year as well.
Thanks, Glenn. Jimmy.
Yes, my question was what also Bridget touched with, if how we can assure the numbers of outsiders joining all those student parties when it's come to the party. Also, I like to ask the question that what is the biggest challenge we see through these events that held us kind of behind to not taking serious action or not having tough measures in place? What was the biggest challenge for our department, the police or city? I will like to know that.
I can just answer to a couple of them as a ground commander. The biggest challenge, I think, is just the sheer numbers of individuals and the safety risks that come into play when you have that many individuals in such a small area. It makes it very difficult for a response, any kind of emergency response. When you have, young people standing on rooftops and, we're not able to get to a middle of a massive crowd to help them out. And then in addition to that, because of their numbers, having the resources to manage them appropriately. So like I had said in the beginning, one of the strategies is the increased presence, and that really does go a long way. So when we're able to get our partners to help us out, that definitely makes a big difference in the responses that we can have and the engagement that we can have.
So also, what kind of a help the police department need from the city to resolve that issue?
I'll let Inspector Pete maybe answer to that one a little bit.
Sure. Well, I think in terms of help from the city, I think we get lots of help from the city. We meet with city partners constantly about this regarding messaging, resources. Jared, you spoke about lighting earlier on. We have tried to address lighting sort of in the Johnson and Frontenac Street area in the past because it was quite dark. I think one of the biggest concerns that we have is we still marvel every year that we haven't had a student death. These gatherings are really volatile. They're unpredictable. You know, behavior of a few individuals in a crowd of otherwise well-behaved partygoers can wreak havoc. And, you know, we consistently have alternative action plans for getting emergency crews into a crowd of that size, which is not safe for them or the officers, but obviously we're prepared to do it. You know, we're happy that the city has implemented bylaws regarding rooftops. It's always been a significant concern of ours. We have had verandas and rooftops collapse. Fortunately, you know, no serious injuries that I'm aware of, certainly no deaths. Another huge factor in this, just for the city itself, not necessarily for the police, but it is a huge tax on our hospitals. You know, treating injuries, but even just, you know, mass intoxication to the point where you need to go to the emergency room is a huge strain on an already very taxed system. So it's kind of, you know, a perfect storm. You add 8 to 10,000 people to a small area like that. You know, we've been saying for quite some time that it's definitely a volatile situation, and sort of the more help that we get, the better. But to answer your question, Jimmy, we're constantly working with the city, and I think they've so far provided us what we need. I think I'll leave that one at that.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm sure all of you are working hard to secure the students and also provide safety to the resident in that area. You know, I appreciate all of the efforts and the hard work from all of you. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thanks. Scott.
Just to expand, not to belabor it, but just to expand, it was a great question because and realistically, the police are not going to solve this. We're not going to police our way out of Queens, and it's been demonstrated year after year what happens there. But collectively, between the city, the justice system, obviously the police board, when everybody's in, and we talk about this frequently, deterrence, and as it was heard here earlier, deterrence is the key. Making this unattractive, making it that there are consequences to bad behavior and good behavior is rewarded. Realistically, that's what the end result is. And as long as all of us are on the same page, Queens, the justice system, the police, you know, the city, it'll be very successful. And I think that's what we got to continue doing. And it's a great start, certainly for my first year here, seeing the collaboration, and we can only increase capacity of that collaboration and keep it going. And I think that's the path forward.
I'm agree with you, Scott. Thanks.
Christian, go ahead. Thank you, Scott.
Deputy, just a friendly amendment to your, I think, insightful remarks and those, I think, of the rest of the leadership team here today on this. Deterrence, of course, has two components. There's deterrence by denial and deterrence by punishment. And so denial is about making sure that certain activities don't take place and that people don't even think about engaging in them. Punishment is obviously once they take place, making the punishment so severe that people think twice about engaging in the activity. So, so that we can parse the deterrence strategy sort of further. So I appreciate the very proactive engagement and the institutional learning that takes place from year to year. But it also seems that some of the I think shocking levels of violence that we saw last year suggests that that everybody continues to be on a learning curve here.
Angie?
Yeah, and finally, just to round it out, it really is a holistic approach. It really talks about prevention, early intervention, and again, the disciplinary approach, however that means, whether it's the justice system or the university system or whatever else is in place. So I do thank everybody for all the work that's being done here. It's very thoughtful, and we're appreciative of our community partners. Thanks.
Thank you. Very good. All that presented and all that helped us with our questions. Much appreciated, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. Okay. Next, motions. So that that's one motion that the Kingston Police Services Board ratify a motion passed by a poll of quorum of board members on August 31st, 2022, pending the regular board meeting, to appoint Braden Langille, Janet Bertrand, and Geoff Fearon as officers of Kingston Police effective September 12th, 2022. The chief or deputy chief like to introduce them to us?
Absolutely. Thank you. Janet Bertrand. Janet comes to us as an experienced officer, 2 years with the Toronto Police and almost 4 years with the Cobourg Police, where she began as where she has been an acting sergeant since April of 2022. One of her passions is the work she has done with her sergeant in Cobourg in developing the homelessness addiction response program, with a focus on engaging with the community and helping educate the public about homelessness and addictions. She's been nominated for 2 awards from the Ontario Women in Law Enforcement for community service and innovation. Prior to becoming a police officer, she was a correctional officer with the federal government for 18 years. She is a graduate of Algonquin College with a diploma in law and security administration. In addition, she has a diploma from the Regional Correctional Officer Training Program in Kingston, as well as a diploma in police sciences from the International Correspondence School in Montreal. Janet has been living in Kingston for the past 20 years and has family in the area. When she's not busy with her work and her 2 children, aged 12 and 10, she volunteers her time with Frontenac Minor Hockey, where she assists 9 to 13-year-olds play hockey, and has also volunteered in the past at the Frontenac Child Care Center at Loughborough Public School. So we welcome Janet to the Kingston Police. Braden Langille. Braden comes to us as an experienced officer with the Gananoque Police, where he's been in frontline patrol for 3 years. Prior to that, he was a special constable with the Gananoque and Brockville Police Services and has been an infantry soldier with the Canadian Armed Reserves for over 4 years, where he has taken part in many courses and exercises that have practical applications to policing. Braden received the diploma in police foundations from St. Lawrence College and has received additional relevant police training through his time with the Gananoque Police Service, including carbine and conducted energy weapon operator, radar operator, standard field sobriety testing, as well as mental health training through the Leeds and Grenville LEAD program. He was born and raised in Kingston and also currently resides here, volunteers his time with the Gananoque Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics, as well as related funding and food drives for the food bank, and as a class speaker for the LaSalle Secondary School Emergency Response Focus Program. We welcome Braden to the Kingston Police. And Jeff is an experienced officer with 9 years with Waterloo Regional Police and just over 2 years with the Brockville Police Service. He is a well-rounded officer who is a qualified range officer, fitness pin appraiser, and has experience as a patrol officer as well as a school resource officer. He has received specialized training as a breath tech, standardized field sobriety testing, police bicycle training, commercial vehicle enforcement, crisis negotiation, and hate crime investigator. He's a graduate from Holy Cross Secondary School here in Kingston and has a diploma in business administration marketing from St. Lawrence College. Jeff currently resides in Kingston and also has a family in the area. Jeff has volunteered his time at the Kingston General Hospital, visiting bedridden patients in long-term care, mentored a group of children living with fetal alcohol syndrome disorder through the Reach for It program at Waterloo, and coached baseball, to name but a few. And we welcome Jeff to the Kingston Police.
Very good. Thank you, Angie. And welcome to the new officers. Very good.
Mr. Chair, could we have a mover and seconder for that motion, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Jeff, Bridget, all in favor? Very good. Thank you. New business. Is there any new business? Angie?
I wondered, I didn't know where the place for this because the agenda went kind of quickly for the, if we wanted to add anything, but I did wonder whether we would be able to talk about our fallen officers and have a moment of silence. And I have just prepared a little bio on that. I don't know if this is appropriate or if you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Great. So I just wanted to say that September has been a tragic month for our policing families. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family, friends, colleagues, and all those impacted by the tragic loss of Toronto Police Constable Andrew Hong and York Regional Police Constable Travis Gillespie. So members of the Kingston Police, along with the deputy and I, attended the funeral for Constable Hong yesterday in Toronto. And today we have officers attending the funeral for Constable Gillespie in York. And I would ask that we have a moment of silence for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Then I would ask to move into in camera now. Firster and a seconder. Jeff. Christian. Very good. All in favor? Let's do that. Let's do a 5-minute break. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Scott. Oh, I'm going to see you in the next meeting anyways. Don't worry. Okay. See you soon.
Thanks. Bye.